Well, hello and welcome back to Season 4, EP 2, where EP is not episode, it's extended play because we took an extended play time between episode 1 and 2.
I think we're on pace to beat our 12 total of last year.
Right, at this pace, barely.
Pace or to beat or to lose to it?
Episode.
I think we could beat it.
Yeah, episode 2, season 4. I mean, our last episode was, well, it aired on February 10th.
I just want to know who number 2 works for. Remember the movie?
No.
You don't remember the movie? Who does number 2 work for?
No.
I don't remember.
Tom Arnold is sitting in the stall next, and Austin Powers is giving the guy the who
there's a reason I don't
does
remember
number
it.
2 work for?
I don't know a lot of
Every
Austin
time you say
Powers
number
quotes.
2, every time you say number 2, I just think of you, Jerry.
Oh,
Right.
yes, I know I'm your favorite turd, Jim, and
You said
you are
number
mine
2.
too.
Yeah, when you said number 2, that's the first thing that come to my mind. I'm like, what's he
Jerry.
talking about crap for? Yeah. Oh, well.
Been a while. A lot's happened and a lot's not happened. There's been some snowstorms. There's been some tornadoes. There's been some racing. There's been some, I don't know, might have been children born in between the 2 episodes.
Welcome back,
Conceived
everybody.
and all that.
Yeah, we've had some races. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
We just haven't got together as a group.
Kennedy turned 14.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. Stay off the sidewalks.
Yeah. I see she got her permit.
She did.
So who's going to teach her to drive, you or Virginia? Because that's a big thing, because it's your job to teach her.
Why is it his job?
Because it's not the student, it's not the driver's ed instructor to teach them.
She says I swear too much.
No.
When,
More than
when she's
Virginia or more
driving.
than...
Oh, and she scares the shit out of me. It's
You let her know.
yeah. Like, what are you doing?
You need to get one.
Get off the lawn.
She doesn't
just
drive
wanted-
on the yard.
I said that this morning to her. She decided she wanted to drive herself to school. So I'm like, okay. So we come off the highway here in town and take a left into town. And I'm like, turn. I'm like, turn.
Did she
Kennedy.
slow down first or not?
She was going a little fast, and she was going a little wide. You know, she was trying to stay in the lane, but she was going too fast. So it just kind of, we ended up in the grass.
Yeah, they think if they turn the wheel like this just a little bit, it'll keep turning. They forget that you got to turn.
She reminds me of her mother,
Oh, boy.
who also scares the hell out of me when she drives.
Or anything else.
Still, to this day, 20 years later. But
Jim
we're
was
still,
without...
we're still together.
Yeah, Jim was without electricity for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When the snowstorm came through Omaha.
Blizzard.
Yes.
We got about 8-9 inches of snow,
So
a
she said-
week ago, with 60-mile-an-hour winds. It was 82 the day before, and then we got that, and then I was at Beatrice on Friday.
I was going to say, so did Beatrice. The same thing happened, but they raced the next day.
Yeah. They only got like an inch or 2 of snow, though. They didn't get much down there.
Crazy.
It's
They
great.
got what we like to call a Jerry amount of
Yeah.
snow.
Trace is what, if you're looking for a trace of snow, that's usually where Jim falls into place. He can lay on his belly and measure the amount. But yeah, they got, what was weird is driving out there, it was 10 miles north of town. You can tell where they had 6-7 inches of snow and at the racetrack. They just,
Oh, there
nothing.
were cars still along the
Yeah,
interstate. and the
there was
ditches.
a camper still stuck in the median when I went home on Saturday night.
Which is still better than last year, where it snowed in town on the day of the races in Beatrice.
I remember getting snowed out one Sunday afternoon out there years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I was there for that one. I think it might
Yes.
have been the last time I've been there.
Jay Nodaboom was leading the heat race at that time, and the
Correct.
snow came in.
I remember one year that they put water on the racetrack, and the water was freezing in the sheep's foot holes.
Yep. And then I can remember it being 80 degrees there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know, and in I don't know. I mean, you look at the weather that they had over there. They still had a really good car count in Beatrice, I thought.
Sure.
You know, obviously I watched on MRP.
They have 130 or so, something like that.
144.
Yeah,
140.
130 something, and then 140 something.
Which is
I
good
think,
for a
the first and
reschedule
second day.
weekend. You know, 'cause
Yeah,
people didn't
rescheduled
have
it.
plans to be there that weekend. They were going to go the weekend before, so.
Yeah, there's a lot
While
of
we're
things.
talking, we might as well talk about the races. I mean, I thought the track was in great shape. You know, I thought the features, both nights were very good, especially Saturday.
Those were
you
the
had
only
Grabowski
features,
and Morris going at each other pretty hard. And,
yeah, that was a hell of a race.
you know, and
Morris
talking
made the
about
cover of Speedway Illustrated.
Yeah.
See that?
And he follows it up with an impressive run at Beatrice.
Right.
Yeah, and Grabowski, I mean, I talked to him after the race in the pits. I said, how flat was that thing when you stepped on it?
I do know
He
how to
about
read.
gave the second place away off of
Well,
four. I
he
mean,
caught a break with that
yeah.
caution. Otherwise, he would have been 5 or 6 car lengths behind Troy.
Yeah, he said he knew. He goes, I knew I was screwed. And he says, we go into one and the yellow light's on. I'm like, okay, I got a shot at this.
Well, and what was interesting, once again, Kyle, who does the race directing there, does just a fantastic job. And, he was put in a bad position in the hobby stock feature. Jerry, you were up in the tower.
Yep.
Where Kyle made the right call. I mean, the leader got taken out. Pure and simple. Kyle sent the guy that took him out to the pits, and unfortunately, the leader had to go to the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there were some people bitching on Facebook about it, but what do you do?
Yeah. It's kind of like I talked to the driver afterwards, and there's two violations there. You got the violation of the rough driving, the violation of stopping on the racetrack, bringing out the yellow.
Yep.
You got 2 rules you have to enforce there, and they have to be enforced consistently.
Yeah, but that's done differently. Officiating across many speedways, many racetracks, many parts of the country, it's not the same.
Some
people
places
want us
will
to
give
get
them.
into officiating races, and I think at times when people watch streams, they think that IMCA
We're sitting there making the calls.
is
Yeah.
officiating the races when,
Kind of like the NHL.
Generally
we're sitting
speaking,
in our
none of
office
us-
in Vinton.
Yeah.
right? Generally speaking, none of us are making calls, even if we're at the event. Like the Beatrice, we might have headsets on, but we're not going, unless they've asked us to be the race director, which we'll do if we're asked. But if we need to, but generally we don't. But we still follow the policy that they have at the racetrack. Some tracks have a protect the leader rule, so to speak.
Or they
call it.
have, if we black flag that guy, you get your spot back.
Right. Regardless of what position it
regardless
is,
of what
there's all
happened.
kinds of ways that it's done differently. So
You
People
get
say,
into
well, why don't
making
we- why
judgment
don't we-
calls or
yeah, and people want us to make those. Why don't we have a standard way of making those decisions on those calls? And the problem is because it's hard enough to get racetracks just to follow a common set of rules when it comes to race cars. It's in points and lineups. It's even more difficult when we're going to try to monitor or police or officiate races as they happen live.
I've been at racetracks at the beginning of the season, and they'll ask my opinion on a call that happened on the track. And I say, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but whatever you decide to do, be sure to remember it. Just be consistent throughout the course of the year. Whatever precedent you set, you need to stick with it to be consistent.
Yep. Yeah, we all get that question asked. We get those calls to the office from racers. We get those calls to the office from promoters at times. Hey, how would you guys do this? Or I just had a call yesterday about formats from a racetrack that I go to, and he's like, hey, I think I want to change the format. Tell me how you do this, And so we offer our opinion, but at the end of the day, the promoters have a lot of freedom to run their shows in their best interests. We've talked about this before in the podcast, and then they also have, obviously the freedom to officiate their shows in what they think is their best interests. That's obviously a matter of opinion at times from people that watch, especially those that are at home that aren't there. But, I think at the end of the day, every racetrack wants to do the right thing.
And it's always easier to be the armchair quarterback.
It is.
no, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to remember these cars are on a small dirt track going very fast. And I mean, you look at, I don't care if it's the NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, these officials are getting paid a shitload of money, and they don't even get the calls right.
They've all
And
got replay
I guarantee
anymore.
race cars on a racetrack are going faster than a running back going down the field in the NFL.
That's
What?
one of the.
What? I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, talking about officiating, when people say officiating has gotten worse through the years, regardless what level of sports it is, and I really don't think it has. I think the technology has just gotten better to catch officials making a wrong call, whether it's basketball, which I'm sure you deal with.
The
high
only,
school
the only
basketball.
thing I'll say about that, I have seen some piss poor officiating in the state of Iowa this year in high school basketball, and
You got
And
just the guy
I've
in the
seen
room
some
to
examples.
complain.
You've been
about
watching.
that.
You've been watching some of my games, Jim. Thank you. I feel special.
He follows your
you are
work at least.
special.
Jerry.
Well,
He follows
he's
your
keeping
work.
up on me. Can you give me some pointers, Jim? Give me some pointers.
we've got the Iowa high school doom scroll or whatever we call
Yeah,
that.
the doom
Doom
scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just technology. It's no different than like Jim said. You know, in high school ball, just like car racing, we don't have a replay. It's all, you know.
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, racetracks. Like, really, I can use Boone as an example. You know, with the sophistication of the streaming and the video capabilities. When you got a multi-camera views, especially on the stream, you can use the actual stream as an officiating tool.
You can,
which we do at Super Nationals. You know, sometimes when things happen, if one of us didn't see it, we'll go back to this. You know, especially behind the scenes. Well, I'm able to ask Nate or Grant will ask Nate, hey, you got that on camera? And if somebody gets turned and we didn't see it, you can make the call based off the stream if it's fast enough, and a lot of times it is fast enough. It's one of the benefits I think of racetrack using video, streaming their events from a you know, we can talk streaming if we want to, but streaming events from a promotional standpoint and from a revenue standpoint for the racetrack, but also from an officiating standpoint.
Yeah.
So,
And
I think
know
race fans kind of get. I think fans in general these days are getting accustomed to this stuff happening. You know.
Yeah.
You watch wrestling and they got the little block
Replay.
that they throw out there. Go back to and they can contest it. You know, you've got the replay in
Challenge
basketball.
flags.
You've got the
I-
the
That
challenge
can really
flags in
kill the
football.
momentum of a game, though.
Oh, very much
it's
so.
So bad. Yeah, it's almost too dependent on it.
Yeah. Could you imagine if
I've never seen the block come out at wrestling before.
Oh,
yeah.
Am I missing something?
not at the wrestling.
Wasn't that the
meet,
guy that was like the game you officiated a couple weeks ago? The guy behind Jim?
Yeah. He got to go.
He looks familiar
got
to me.
That guy
escorted-
behind Jerry.
Yeah. He got escorted out.
Followed him out.
You know, when I was at wrestling last week, instead of a block, they used a
Table?
no. Well, they had a table, but they had a I don't know what it was, similar to a bat or something with a bunch of nails they stuck. in
Oh,
the guy's
yeah. That got stuck in that dude's back.
Yeah, that was great. I was in the second row.
I know. You were showing me. Yeah, that was crazy as
This
shit.
is the first time hearing of this, and I don't know if I want to hear anymore.
no.
That kind of stuff.
Did he fall on it,
Kennedy-
or did he get? You were
I
telling
think
me
he got thrown on it.
he got
Has
thrown on
Kennedy
it, but
learned that
then
one yet?
it had all these big nails in it, and it stuck in between his shoulders, and they had
Yeah, they couldn't get it out
because what the body does
Why?
is the nerves that just
Jim, why do you watch that stuff?
because of that.
Where was this?
Probably in Omaha.
In Omaha?
It was in Omaha. It was on
Yeah.
TV. It was
Crazy.
on TV.
Hey, before we get too off into the weeds and all this other stuff, we do have a guest we want to bring on. We should introduce, obviously, and then involve in the conversations. Unfortunately, we got he's not in the office, or you're not in the office, so we've got a little bit of a two video feed that we're going to be playing with a little bit. But we've got a special guest and a new staff member, so to speak, for IMCA with Ben Deatherage, and I think a lot of people kind of will recognize Ben if you watch any of our streams, if you watch the Super Nationals. Ben's been pretty active at the Super Nationals and in the IMCA TV world for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, probably. Yeah, so, but we got Ben helping us out since Bill Martin retired back in December. You know, it's funny. I started talking to Ben in the fall of last year, maybe even the middle of last year. In the fall, when I was sure that Bill was going to retire, you know, Ben and I talked a little bit, and then I called him in January, and he was, you know, he's excited to be helping us out. He's doing a great job, and I'm excited to have him helping us because I think at the end of the day, he hits a lot of the marks and brings a lot of enthusiasm to IMCA racing and to our racers, to our racetracks, and to our race fans that are watching the events. So, do we have Ben on video? We do, don't we? Welcome, Ben. Where you at?
Yep, I'm right here in Cottage Grove, Oregon.
Cottage Grove,
Where it's-
Oregon. For those that don't know, we're
It's blurry and foggy.
yeah.
right.
Is
rainy.
it because that storm that Frankie McDonald was talking about? Did it go through?
We didn't get that bad. Like, it just rained and the wind was a little bit up, but nothing crazy. Everything north of us was a little wild and western, but it was actually 78 and sunny until about 4 o'clock yesterday, and then that's when the storm kind of rolled in. So
Does it rain
Nothing
there all
wa-
the time?
lose power.
That's Washington.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
rained pretty good.
But Cottage Grove's like northern Oregon, right?
So it's like western central. So we're
Okay.
20
So it's
miles south of the U of O. So we're about 2 hours from Washington, 2 hours from California, from the borders.
So are you a Ducks fan?
I used to not be a Ducks fan, but my fiance went to law school there. So, and we're taking,
Is your fiance an
5-year-old
attorney?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
just checking.
yeah. So we're actually going there later today because my daughter Regina has a little field trip. She gets to go to the art museum and the library, and then frozen yogurt.
That's
party.
in Eugene, right? Is that in
Yep,
Eugene?
Eugene. That's
Yes,
correct.
Where Animal House was filmed.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
In Altman.
Yes.
Yeah. So
parade,
where
though,
they
yeah.
filmed some of those scenes when I was sick, when I was a little kid, my pediatrician's office was actually they bulldozed one of those old houses, the one with the white pillars and everything,
Oh,
where
yeah,
the
yeah.
posh guys were. That was next door. That's still there. That's next door to where my pediatrician's office was, and there's actually a lot of scenes. The parade was in Cottage Grove, where the guy gets beat up in the hotel. That was in Cottage Grove. They've got the what was the car? The Doommobile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's downtown here in Cottage Grove in a parking lot on display year
They've
round.
preserved the
So-
history quite well then.
yeah.
Right.
That's one of the top 5 movies of all time. Animal House.
From racing to Animal House.
Well,
Exactly.
they have some similarities. I mean,
Right.
they're not
That's what's
completely
making me laugh. Oh, well. Well, welcome, Ben. We're glad to have you on board, and we're going to try getting you more involved, obviously, in the podcast. We'll do our best to get better and better at that, and obviously, I know you're enthusiastic and you know a lot about IMCA racing, so I think that the people are going to appreciate that fact and that you're on our team now. So, again,
I think
welcome aboard.
As we go on about past races, Ben was down in Florida at the Clash on the Coast. Give us your views on that event.
Being a first
Oh my
timer.
gosh. Well, Jer Bear and I were roommates, so that was a wonderful.
Whoa, whoa,
experience.
whoa!
Well, wait, what did you just say?
Jer Bear?
Yeah.
Jer Bear, yeah.
I don't know.
What the hell went on down in Florida?
There's
Wow.
there's some of it.
Now this is definitely a story I don't need to hear any more
Why
details.
do you have a nickname like that?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Why? Why?
What are we missing, Jer Bear?
Jer Bear.
Brian, can
Well,
you,
I
know
was
what
hibernating
you're talking about,
most of the time. I just started
can you
hibernating.
explain?
Are you
Can you
like
explain
a
the meaning of the word bear?
right?
I
Are you
mean,
like a
I know Ryan's
I
version
can
of the bear,
explain
but
that in my world, but
are you like a grizzly bear or like that Paddington bear?
are you a cub or are you a bear? Or
A koala bear.
I'm more of a.
Oh
I'd be more.
God!
I get a little festive. I'd be
okay, Daddy, that's good.
This is gonna get off. This is gonna get off.
Am
the
I a
rails
Papa Bear,
quick.
Ryan?
You're not
You're
a
gonna be a
papa
bear or
bear.
be a grizzly.
At least you didn't wear your leather outfit today.
No.
Back to Ben and racing, and not bear subject. please.
Not rooming with Jerry.
Yeah. No.
Be careful
it's
what you say, Ben.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's recorded. It's recorded forever. I love the event. I know last year there were plans for me to go, but it just didn't pan out. But I just love. Everybody is there obviously to race, but there's so much other cool stuff to do with the beach, with the seafood. They've got museums. They've got tourist things that you can do with excursions of fishing and dolphin cruises. And it's just really cool. And the weather was awesome. I know it was a little rainy on that one Sunday, but other than that, there was like no humidity. The local people there were just awesome. The racing was wonderful. The local promoters there at Northwest Florida and Deep South Speedway, wonderful people. I think that this deal, the Clash on the Coast, has got a bright future and is going to be looking really good in years to come.
Well, Peyton definitely does a good job. The concept behind it and the
Works hard.
approach he's taken and the effort he's putting into it definitely shows. Again, he's going to an area where we have some sanctions down there, obviously, but it's not what you would consider to be a concentration of IMCA. So, you're relying on a lot of guys to travel, which is expensive these days to do. So, you know, Peyton does a good job hitting all the marks down there and trying to put on essentially racing in a time that generally most racers that we deal with can't race because of the climate. They're living in cold areas. And then so after the Clash was over, Ben, didn't you just hop in a car and drive home or something to Oregon?
So I flew to Indianapolis. That's where my fiance was living, and then we went from Indy to Cottage Grove, and we
Webster
got
City.
You stayed
drove.
in Webster City.
Yeah, yeah.
Drove.
You stopped for a blizzard.
Yeah, stopped for a blizzard, and then we called it an early night. Actually, right at Gillette, Wyoming, where we oddly enough sanctioned racing there at Gillette Thunder Speedway. It was just because it was too dark, and I hadn't seen the stripes on the road for about 80 miles, and the plows were getting off of I-90. So I thought, well, maybe that's a good cue that we should just call it a night and
Maybe we should start
again tomorrow.
Well, speaking of Webster City, you did mention Webster City and blizzards, and not even a blizzard would make me stop in Webster City ever again.
What about like a
I'd throw
Reese's
that out
peanut
there.
butter type blizzard?
Didn't there used to be a track in Webster City?
Yeah, there used to be.
Yeah.
But Gillette, yeah, it's crazy because it's interesting you say that, Ben, because when I travel, you know, I like to stop in towns that have racetracks. Not necessarily because I'm stopping in town to work, but I just like to support the track, the towns that have
Community.
tracks. If I'm going to buy gas in a town, I'm going to buy it in a track is in that town or not in that town. It really does influence. Like, I'm weird like that. I don't know if that's. I just do that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys do that.
Do you drive by the track if you've never been there? If you make your way through town, do you
I
look
have
for
done
it?
that before. I think I've told you that about like Casa Grande. That's the only time I've ever been to Casa Grande. When I was in Phoenix, I went out there when they weren't racing. That was many, many, many years ago. But yeah, things like that. Yeah, I've been to racetracks that aren't even sanctioned. You know, I went to Antioch one time way back when in California. I was in California for racing with my wife, and we were extra few days. I drove up to Antioch when it wasn't even sanctioned one night. I don't know why I did that, but I did. But I've been to Antioch, which we sanction. Jim works on their schedules every year. I've been to Antioch once for non-sanctioned racing. It was kind of IMCA, but not sanctioned. So, but I went up there and watched on my day off one night, which I thought was interesting at times. For me to go to races.
That
go to an
traveling
unsanctioned
for
track.
the Clash on the Coast. I mean, you look at the stock car champion of that event.
Yeah.
Traveled from where at Michigan? Cedar Springs, Michigan.
Where's that at exactly?
Cedar
Michigan.
Springs sounds like a bottled water.
Yeah,
Doesn't it?
somebody like Crystal.
Is it?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Sounds like
Yeah.
bottled water. Also.
Sounds like bottled water.
I know Crystal seemed
Mike-
like this girl we saw Sunday night on stage.
Oh, good Lord. No, that's usually got a car name.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Yeah, Mercedes,
Mercedes.
Yeah, Lexus.
Impala.
Porsche.
Impala.
Impala.
I've been to a lot of strip clubs, but I've never. And welcome to the stage, Impala.
Tesla.
Cadillac.
Tesla, now who?
F-350.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Vandermark Jr.
Ram.
went there and
Yeah, in the stock cars.
from an area
Yeah, how many
that has
sanctioned
no
stock
tracks.
cars
None.
up there?
None.
None.
Modifieds, not stock cars.
Yeah, not yeah.
Yeah, our footprint in Michigan is pretty much mods,
So
Yeah.
just like the big toe, there's no other four toes there in the footprint.
something like that. But Crystal has been, one of the longest sanctioned, consistently sanctioned, and just sanctioned in general tracks in the United States, right in the middle of the state.
Yep.
Yeah, for modifieds forever and ever. Former champs, national champ Rick Stout came out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he obviously.
I still see Rick at the track up there.
AJ
Chris.
Ward's from
AJ
Michigan. He's
Ward.
won a lot of regional titles.
And then, yeah, I was gonna.
Kevin
and it was
Yachty for years.
his
King.
name.
Got it.
Yep.
AJ Ward, Myron DeYoung, obviously last year.
Oh, Matt Sachety. How about
Matt
that?
Sachety, yes. Matt
There's a
Sachety
lot
and
of good
Gavin
racers,
Young.
IMCA racers, that call Michigan home, and I thought it was really interesting to have Vandermark down there in a stock car. I had to ask him, who's this guy from Michigan racing a stock car? And whose car was he racing? Did he buy Troy Jarevitz?
Yeah, it was
or
Troy
something?
Jarevitz. Yeah, so it's Troy Jarevitz's old
Thank
car.
God for Facebook, because that's how I can snoop around and find some of this stuff out.
Snoop?
You know,
I do.
Once
It's called
again,
creeping. Brett. It's called
the
creeping.
owners at Crystal, I believe, are
Okay.
in on that car, and they brought stock cars in last year for the Great Lakes at the end of the year, and they're looking to add some more stock car races, and I think we got drivers like Mike up there who come down to Florida, run with probably the best stock car drivers we have and wins. I mean,
And he was fast all week down there.
yep.
And one of the neat
worst
things
finish was fourth. Like he
was fourth.
he won second, got third, and got fourth in 4 races.
I like that all 4 winners were from different states. Also, you had Wisconsin, Presley Harrington. He was another one I'd never heard of before.
Well, he's raced a couple of years.
Vandermark, then Jim Horst from Minnesota, and Damon Murdy, all winners. So Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
Again, a testament. You put guys from all over the country that never raced each other on a racetrack under a common set of rules that are consistent, that they're used to, and they put on great racing, and they can win anywhere. It's just some of the best racers, dirt track racers in the country are racing IMCA. I say this all the time, and I'm a firm believer, and I think people also that watch a lot of IMCA, or even people that don't watch a ton of IMCA, also realize there's a lot of good racers in all of our divisions.
I mean, the modified car count was up around 60, and that was about 99,000 less to win than other tracks to get the same amount of cars, but they put on. Brett, you're laughing. They put on great races.
I made a face at him.
Took me a second to think about that. Yeah.
I hope my math was correct. It is 99.
Dave was down there. I don't think we had any issues at all with tech. I thought that was good.
No, I think this is the first year he hasn't brought an engine home from Florida.
That's true. First of the year stuff always kind of catches people sometimes, but we really don't. We added the spec engine in the mods, and we're not going to talk much rules this podcast. If you're listening to listen for rules.
No. Got to see the new Camaro bodies in
You're going to be
performance.
disappointed.
The Camaro bodies, I'm sure there probably was some of the new metric frames competing.
Yep.
Again, we're in our infancy for this, for essentially the first 3 months of this year of racing, but we've had a lot of it already. That's what's kind of crazy. Ryan and I were talking about it earlier. Ryan had the stats. We've had 156 feature events already.
It's crazy.
4 points, or maybe even not for points, in IMCA so far this year, and we're not even to the end of March. Most places aren't even going to open for another 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, even 6 weeks.
Yeah,
in
some
some
even
places.
longer than that.
And we've already got 156 events, features in, so, and lots of special events, but even some weekly racing that's kicked off. And I was supposed to go to Abilene that weekend. The icebreaker is always kind of right around when Florida starts. So I was going to go to the icebreaker, and I made the mistake of planning the drive down there and the weather to getting out of the state.
Ooh, yeah.
When I was supposed to leave was horrible. There was blizzard warnings, so I stayed home. I didn't have to be forced to stop in Webster because I didn't even leave my house. So I stayed home. By the time
That'd have been going the wrong way too.
Kinda. By the time the weather somewhat cleared up, it pushed me about a half a day behind in my driving, and it just didn't make any sense at that point. So I didn't go to Abilene. I missed it.
I was supposed to go up to Michigan last week, and they shut down the airport in Omaha.
Yeah.
That was the day you lost power, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it was weird because I think Abilene, or not Abilene, but Omaha had issues at the airport. And I think Chicago had
Yeah. Well, Chicago
airport
has issues if it's nice out.
and we're like halfway between them, like right as almost as the crow flies between Omaha and Chicago, and we didn't even hardly have any rain.
Well, that's like
It's wild.
most snow we got was, it didn't even cover the grass in Des Moines.
Yeah, in Des Moines we had a Jerry to a Jim traced to 2 inches.
Yeah. But got 20 miles north, and it was a mess.
Good times.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Speaking of weekly racing, and, Ardmore opened up here about, 2 weeks ago, maybe?
John's still putting dirt on that place?
I think so. He actually is. I talked to Nikki yesterday, and now they're putting it on the front stretch.
Oh,
But-
he's out there putting dirt on.
I mean, I would talk to him. He was working from 7 in the morning to 2 or 3 at night. I go, John, you race in like a day. He goes, yeah, we should have it on there before hot laps. And I think it was pretty close. But I mean, it's that type of dedication, not only with those hours he's putting in, the money it costs to do that, and then you have some racer bitch and says he don't give a shit about what goes on at the track. I mean, it just doesn't.
There's always a bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean,
that people
everybody
have to
tends
realize.
everybody tends to kind of focus on how it impacts them directly.
The me factor.
Rough racetracks are, I think this time of year, even if they're not putting dirt on, rough racetracks are somewhat can be expected at times, just from the ground thaw and some of the stuff, at least in the climates we live in. You kind of have that, I never know what you're going to get kind of deal. But, yeah, you got good promoters like John who just bust his ass nonstop. It's crazy. He's a pretty unique individual, too, when it comes to his involvement in racing. When he owned the Tom Series for many years down there. He races IMCA modified. He won the Icebreaker modified event this year. At Rob's track, and then he probably drove straight home after that and started working on his own racetrack.
Yeah.
He had that track. He had that track perfect for the races. I don't know how he did it. I had to go on the IMCA TV replay, which I have a subscription for, which everybody should have a subscription for, and check it out myself. And it was incredible.
You talk about John and everything what he does, but everybody forgets that he's famous because he was neighbors with the Tiger King for a while.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Sanctuary, the park was right next to his trucking shop.
It's right there off 35.
Yep.
If you know
sold
what
him
you're
a truck.
looking at.
Never got paid for it, but he sold him a truck.
I think it was on Tiger King. I think that truck must have been sitting in the weeds somewhere.
That was that big black truck on Tiger King. In fact, John and Nikki got me.
Hilarious.
I can't even remember what the Tiger King's name was.
Joe
Tiger.
Exotic.
They got me the bumper
Tiger
sticker.
King.
They got you the Joe Exotic bumper sticker?
Oh yeah, when he was running for governor.
Oh, that's right. He did run for governor.
Yeah, you'd never
Now
know
he's
that place
running
is
in
right
prison.
there.
Yeah, you never would.
How I remember it because we drive by it every time we go to Texas. How I remember there's a big hauler place right on the west side
of the interstate.
35. It's just got huge, beautiful haulers. I'm always like, oh man, I'd like to own one of those. Looks like the stuff that our racers are driving. I think but yeah, right there. And then I always look left, and you can kind of like tell where the tops
Where
of
the Tiger King was.
the tops of the building are, and the cages and all that crap we're at. Good
The old
stuff.
Trucks Unlimited.
If it wouldn't have been for Carol Baskin, Tiger King would still be around.
He would still be having shows. Serving pizza. Didn't he have pizza or something too?
Yeah, John
It's some
John
restaurant
talked
or
about
something
some
in the
stories
show.
about that.
I've heard some
food at that
stories
restaurant.
about
He's serving other stuff where he is now.
Yeah.
Good times.
He's either he's serving some kind of a steak. Might be in a tube.
Come on,
but-
guys.
He's driving another
Man.
big black truck, I think, probably.
That's uncalled for.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Really?
I took it too far.
Wow. That was nice.
Oh,
What about Bakersfield? Let's talk about the West Coast just a little
Yeah, they
bit.
raced
Your
on that new
brother.
place. Your brother.
Your brother.
Why is everybody gonna say that? He's not my brother. I'm not related to him.
You guys are like Facebook brothers.
We're just
I
friends.
think your
Facebook
brother's
friends.
Oh,
from another mother.
Yeah.
How's that go?
Yeah, it's like me and Paul Berger, We're twin brothers from another mother.
Something like that. No, I think Robbie's one of those guys. We had the it's Bakersfield at Kern County, right? Is that
Bakersfield, at
Kern-
Kevin Harvick's
at Kevin
Kern County.
Harvick.
Kevin Harvick's
Kern County.
Yeah, and again, that whole situation is really fascinating to me because they were literally building that facility like right up to the time where they started racing.
And they were pulling a John Webb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which again shows the dedication. But I also particularly think it's cool that you've got somebody like Harvick who owns that facility, who has he's been in the sport his whole life. He's been at the upper level he's one of the most recognizable, obviously NASCAR racers. That I'm in my he's about my age, so in my age group I would say. I met him. I was at an event at the old Bakersfield Speedway when Harvick did I don't know if it was what would you call it, a guest appearance, but he was
Meet and
racing.
greet.
He was actually racing, so he raced an IMCA modified that night. I got a picture with him there, and he was a very nice guy. But I just think it's particularly cool that you got people like him that don't really they probably have enough money. They don't really need to have anything else to do with racing again if they don't want to. But he chooses to at that level, owning a speedway and promoting racing. You know, I think his son races too. You know, which is
Well, he knows the
cool.
importance of what a weekly program is. You know, he wouldn't be where he's at if he wouldn't have had the Bakersfield and those racetracks. If he didn't grow up racing there, he wouldn't be where he's at. So I think he understands.
Yeah,
that
everybody's
more
got to
than
start somewhere.
Maybe some people do.
Instead of separating himself from the sport and stepping away, he's actively involved, obviously, with the TV stuff on the Cup side still, and then he owns a racetrack. It's got a pavement and a dirt track at the facility too, which I don't know if a lot of people know that. So, but I just think it's pretty cool.
And I talked to Tim Huddleston, who had Irwindale, and
he's running
basically.
He basically runs the facility.
Yeah, 2 days before that event, we talk about, like somebody said about, them pulling a John Webb. I talked to him on like Thursday. They were going to race on Saturday. And it was raining, and they had like 24, 25 people out there in the rain putting the bleachers up because they brought bleachers over from Irwindale to Bakersfield, Kern County, and they were trying to get those set up before the races.
Yeah, and they were posting the progress on their Facebook page too, which again was a good way for me to snoop on them. Is that what's the word I say? Or
Creeping.
Creeping sounds creepy. I don't creep on people. I just like find out information I need to know.
Really, you're telling me if you don't
Don't
hear
comment
something from
because
somebody,
then your creeping turns into being a troll once you comment.
Yeah, when you.
Oh, so is that the terms technically?
I guess.
Creeping is when you're like, I'm gonna go find this out, and you start. Then you troll when you make their post your post. Like if you go on to some sort of a post that's saying something nice, and then you decide to turn it political because that's what you want, then you're a troll.
Gotcha. You can tell I'm getting old because I don't know all these words. You think you guys? My daughter has a whole different language.
Oh, Jimmy Gustin told us about it at the Clash on the Coast.
They've got a whole
About
different
Kennedy's language?
About his daughter Adley's about.
Adley,
Oh,
they're
same
about
age.
same
Same
age. But
age.
they were like, it was like, what used to be off the chain is now something different. And it's
nothing means what it used to
bumping
mean.
is not.
An L in the chat.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Jimmy used a couple.
The only thing.
There's a bussin'.
Bussin', yeah, that was one of the one. Yeah,
Was
bussin'.
Sigma one of them?
Yep. That's
Scooty.
one of them too.
What one was it? Sigma?
Sigma, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said something to Kennedy the other day. What's this word mean? She just started laughing. That was her response. She didn't even respond. She just laughed. I'm like, what's that mean? Are you laughing at me?
Yeah, she was.
You're laughing. I don't know this stuff.
Text abbreviations are difficult enough, let alone entire words
LOL.
to know what they mean. Well, LOL is pretty basic.
Yeah. But some people always thought it was lots of love.
Oh, lots of that's right.
Took me a
Look
while
at
to
the bright
understand
side.
what
At least
YW
Kennedy's
meant.
still talking to you.
Right.
Give her a
Exactly.
few years. I've got a 19-year-old daughter.
Yeah, I know. She'll
They don't
have-
even talk to you. You don't even rate.
Yeah, they get to 17 and they don't talk to you.
Yeah. So Robbie Sawyer run at least the modified portion of that first race.
Robbie
right?
Root.
Robbie Root. No. Run the first portion of that, and then we also had a race over Mojave Valley. I mean, they're racing in Casa Grande and some other places still too, but I thought the Mojave Valley situation was kind of interesting. Ben wrote the story on it, and he can probably tell it because he better than I read the story, and I thought that's a fascinating set of circumstances to have happen. But the guy who won the race flipped in hot laps. I'm like, how's that work?
How's that work, Ben?
Ben?
Well, he flipped in hot laps, and then they scrambled just to make it out for the heat race. It was Gavin Manning, who's won the track championship at Bakersfield the last couple of years. He actually was leading on the last restart at Bakersfield of that race, and then a last lap pass by Sawyer to get the win. So
Was it clean?
it was clean. Oh yeah, yeah, it was clean.
That's funny.
So, yeah, no, it's been some good racing out in the Shaw race cars Western region so far this year.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because some racetracks have rules. If you flip, you can't compete. You can't race that car anymore the rest of the night. That's why when I read that, I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I looked at the picture they had of him in Victory Lane, and it didn't look like the car was completely destroyed. You know what I mean? So
No.
it's just a very interesting story to have a guy flip in hot laps and then win the feature. And it's not like he was racing against nobody. I think it was 30 cars there that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much 30.
Yeah, I mean, if they'd have paid $100,000 to win, they could have had twice as many.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. That's
But
a
they didn't.
formula all promoters need to keep in mind.
And that was a memorial race too, wasn't it? Wasn't it, Ben? Did you say that already? I can't remember. It was a memorial race, an annual
the
memorial
Billy
race.
Iron Memorial. Yep.
Yeah.
They've had 5 different winners in 5 years. So there's been some fast cats that have won that deal. Colin Hibden won it last year. So Hogue won it the year before that. Bobby Hogue. So
Yeah, they do get
slouches.
somewhat of a following of California guys coming from the west to cruise over to Mojave Valley. I don't know how they get there. I mean, I've been to Mojave. It's been a few years now, but it's a cool little racetrack. It's a small little quarter-mile racetrack.
I know how they get there.
Perfect for IMCA mod racing, if you ask me. It's a perfect size racetrack. Little. I like little racetracks. Not too little, like go-kart kind of stuff, but a good size racetrack. Usually puts on good racing, and lots of good racers that come out of there that people sometimes don't really even know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too far from Bakersfield. I've went that way a couple times to go kind of around the horn to get to the Phoenix area, and like Highway 58 to Tehachapi Pass, where there's a whole bunch of those big windmill things. That you take that to about Barstow area on 40. Yeah, I think 40. And then, just right after you get into Arizona, there it is, Mojave Valley. And
all I remember, all you see is a casino.
Yeah.
That's most of Nevada, isn't it?
Nothing wrong with casino.
It's not that far from Vegas either.
It's
2 hours, I think.
Yeah, when I went to Mojave, I flew into Vegas and drove down there.
Jim,
That's how I got there.
I forgot to tell me about that new casino on the south side of Lincoln.
A casino
Oh,
in
the
Lincoln?
On
Warhorse?
77.
There's a new one?
Yeah, go
That's a
down to
long ways
Beatrice.
from here.
It's been there a couple years.
Oh, I didn't know I was coming home Saturday. I was like, whoa, there's a casino here.
Yeah.
I know what I'm
They
going
got
to
one
do
in
during the
Omaha,
national
too.
banquet.
Do they have live roulette?
I don't know.
And what's the
Black
table
10.
max?
Black 10.
Yeah.
Jim, you need to
Oh,
go find that out
that's the
this
only
week
thing I
for
care
us.
about.
Before next podcast, find out about that place.
I'm on it.
All right.
What else?
I'm
What other
on it.
races we have?
We had a first-time winner last week down in Heart-O Texas Speedway in Waco, Texas. First-time, second-generation winner. Anybody want to guess who?
I saw this name and I can't remember.
I did too.
I know who you're talking about.
Why can't I remember?
He's back to racing.
Ben?
Well, he's racing sprint cars now. He used to race. I think
Yeah.
he's racing mods. I'm not sure.
You raced mine.
I think Dylan's
Then he
been
raced
racing.
some-
I think he's raced anything that he could. You know.
Anything that his mom will let him.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And-
Dylan
I'm not
Ramey.
going to answer because I know the
that's right.
story.
Yeah. Dylan Ramey won the Race Saver 305.
Oh, yeah.
Sprint car race down there. Which I think is pretty
First
cool.
feature win.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of confused on his age. How does anybody know the exact age of Dylan?
I can find it right now.
Ryan can tell us.
I think.
As long as what
think
they
I'm repeating
submitted is
that
accurate.
22.
Is accurate.
He turned 22 last month.
He's one of those kids that was 16 for like 3 years.
He
He's 22 and he's raced for 12 years.
He was 13
Kevin-
for 14
Kevin
years, so
tried
he
to
could
buy
get
him
the
a
half-price
license.
pit pass.
Yeah.
Kevin tried to buy him a license, saying he was 14. The same day, Kevin made a post, "Happy 13th birthday" on
Right.
Facebook.
There was the creeping part again, Brett.
The way we find this stuff out is entertaining, though. These things really happen.
Yeah, you can't hide anymore behind that stuff.
Well, the thing about it, we usually don't have to creep. We are made aware of
The creepers,
Yeah, people.
Facebook.
the creepers inform.
They are the informants.
Yeah, the creepers are the informants.
Yeah.
And
What's-
sometimes, and then sometimes a troll does come out.
I was going to say, did they just call them informants at that point, or did they have another?
Well, they were
slang
creeping,
word?
then they become an
Creeping,
informant,
troll.
They
and
creep when
then,
they're looking. They're
Informant
an
seems too
and
informant.
then
formal.
sometimes when you become informed, then the
Narc
informed
is narc
Right.
better.
Then the informed
Tattletale.
goes
The
trolling.
words we used to go off of way back when.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah, every once in a while, it's been a few years since this has happened, but every once in a while, Virginia, who does our memberships, or even Kim now, they'll come in and say, "Hey, we got a problem." I'm like, "What's that?" Well, this guy had a license last year, but he's got a different birth date this year. The year changed. I'm like, "Oh, interesting."
Leap year?
Yeah, something like that.
That could be.
That's how bad some parents or some kids want, or some parents want their kids to race, or how bad kids want their parents to let them race. But yeah, the Ramey deal's funny because they posted that on, and we kind of caught it. But it's good. Congratulations to Dylan, though.
Dylan's a good little racer. I saw him at Eagle last year at the Race Saver Nationals, and he just impressed the shit out of me. I mean, he was up high, he was down low. You know, he kind of. I had to because him and Kevin had basically the same number, and you know, there's a slow one. That must be Kevin out there, but Dylan, he gets after it. Boy, I'll tell you what, it's impressive for second generation driver like Dylan, and it's neat to see young guys like that coming up and making a mark in racing.
Yeah, I also saw where Trevor Cogburn won the Southern Sport Mod feature down there. He's hard to miss in the pictures because he's like literally 7 feet tall. I think he's got to be the tallest IMCA member we have in the country.
Should add that to the license application.
How tall?
What's your height?
I mean, he came to the banquet that year. He came to the banquet that one year, and I looked like I looked like I was really short.
He went home and told all his friends, "Yeah, that Brett looks up to me."
I look tiny, and I'm almost 6 foot tall. I like to say I'm 6 foot, but I'm not. Close.
That with your heels on?
I look at those pictures, and I'm like, do I really look that short in person? Well, when you were standing, yeah, whatever. Right?
I thought it
not this guy. No, not this guy.
Well, your cowboy boots.
You can borrow a pair of mine, Brett.
Right.
Borrow a pair of Ryan's.
Wrong.
That's illegal in some states, but even
soon to be here.
It would make your calf muscles.
Oh God, here we go.
Let's talk about Mod Lite racing. There's been some great Mod Lite races going on across the country, and I can't remember where I was at. Me and my buddy.
That would not be the first time you forgot where you're at, Jim.
Me and my buddies were driving home after the race in the car, and I was saying how much I really like Mod Lite racing. And
quit lying.
Really
these people
you would really
let him talk, Jerry. Let him talk.
Come on, Jerry.
Well, I just didn't want you lying. You said you were in a car with your buddies.
And anybody who would dog on Mod Lite racing really isn't a big race fan. They're one of them snobby people. And but the races I've seen this year, whether it be down in Arizona, with the Mod Lite racing, they put on some of the best racing of the night.
They do. I think some of the best people we work with
they
are
the
Mod Lite people.
A few years ago, when you decided to bring the Mod Lights to IMCA, I was thrilled with it because I just love the people that would race over at Boone and Marshalltown. They're a good group of guys, really good group of guys.
They're generally appreciative. They race for the right reasons. I mean, there's a lot of good things about Mod Lite racing, and they are far more popular than I think a lot of people knew they were. Yeah. Again, we've seen them race. I don't know how many states we've had Mod Lite races in so far this year, but it's probably about as many as any other division. So, they've got a pretty big following. The guys who are in Mod Lites or driving Mod Lites really love Mod Lite racing.
Correct.
Which is
cool. The racing is good.
It's good to be a part of that. I enjoy being a part of that. It's good to have a division like that we had nothing to do with its inception. So it's not like we're the originators of Mod Lite racing or Mod Lite rules or any of that stuff. We're none of that. So. And we won't ever claim to be. I think it's a really cool division. That's why Jimmy and I had sat down that year and had a meeting and said, hey, what can we do? And I just think I've said this before, I think it's been a good addition to this association.
Absolutely.
So.
They've already been in 6 or 7 states so far this year already.
Jimmy May's probably been at every one of those races.
Probably.
And I can tell you one place they're not going to be, that's going to be Benton, Missouri. But that's a whole different story.
Good point, Jim.
Like the Mod Lites, like he said, they're just like this family. And, I take the Rookie of the Year deal at Marshalltown. We did always do track rookies. Brian Compart was actually higher in points than Trace and Gleck. But he had raced in a, dwarf car or Mod Lite when they were unsanctioned. And he calls me and says, hey, I don't feel right being the rookie. I know by points, by standards I am. He says, but Trayson's the real rookie. He says, make sure he's your Rookie of the Year at the banquet. Yeah. And I mean, there's other people that wouldn't do that. They'd be like, yep, it's me. but he just, Brian was like, hey,
It's a very respectable thing to do. It doesn't surprise me with Brian either. He's a very nice guy.
great guy.
Title sponsor of the division. I mean,
Stealth racing there.
it's stealth racing. He puts a lot of money back into Mod Lite racing, so that didn't surprise me.
And them little cars fly both on and when they're off the track too.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I mean, a lot of racetracks, I mean, they turn the same lap time as modified.
Right.
I
think
get a
it's
lot
one of
higher
those,
when they flip.
They speed up when they take off.
because of the wheelbase and the narrowness. I think of the I don't know what you want to say. Is that one flipping behind us? No, that's a
That's
hobby.
That was a hobby
stuff.
stuff.
The guy from Minnesota at Super Nationals.
That was one that Wade called the shit mixer.
Right. I think when a Mod Lite gets upside down, it's one of those divisions that almost speeds up once it gets off its wheels.
Sounds like a non-wing sprint car. It just takes off.
They can be some pretty wild crashes in those things.
Ben, I think you were down in Casa Grande when we had one about clear the billboards that one night.
Yes. Yeah. And, you guys were saying like a non-wing sprint car. Holy smokes. They don't slow down. They speed up. And break dancing, definitely.
Yep.
In the wrong way.
But they're safe. They're a safe race car, too. That's the other thing. We don't have a lot of injuries in any of IMCA, generally speaking. But, those things can have some pretty violent crashes, and you go, oh, my gosh. They just flip
like
the
when the
top up.
drivers
If the
pop
top will
up.
flip up, they flip the top up, get back out of it.
I like when they pop up the top of the car, the drivers.
Right. That's what I mean. They flip the top up and get out. Crazy.
Load it back in the back of their pickup truck and go on.
Any other races you want to talk about, events that we've had, Jim?
I mean, I think that pretty much covers what I can think of.
Again, 156 feature events we've had so far this year, which is just a pile.
And I think we talked about 12, so we still have 144 to go.
I mean, it's a lot, but in the grand scheme of us, it's our season's barely even started. So, just shows you the volume of races and events that we're dealing with here. So,
Yeah, speaking of volume of races and events, the slate is full for this upcoming weekend.
yeah, it's only going to start ramping up. Before we get to that real quick, I want to talk about the penalty box because people like to hear me talk about DQs. We talked about the last podcast. We didn't really have much exciting happen, nothing controversial or crazy or anything like that. But we did have a racer get disqualified for his helmet. And so I want to remind everybody, it's just a good time before the racers start racing. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure your safety gear is up to speed. Your seat belts are right. You're wearing the correct head and neck restraint or neck collars, which is our mandatory in all of our classes, and then obviously you got the right fire suit on and racing shoes, not hey dudes. Which
You
are
wear them in the pits, but make sure you put your racing shoes on.
no hey dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
hey
still
down
in
on the hay
Richards.
dudes.
right.
That's just the one thing I've never understood is skimping
Safety.
something that will save your life.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you never understood why people wear hey dudes, because I would say I'd agree with you.
I'm not a hey dude guy.
Me neither. I'm like, why do people
They're
wear those
comfy just to
things?
wear around if you're going outside.
You see
I
people
mean,
wearing them all the
dude,
time. I
we
feel
were
like I'm being left out of a hey dude party.
building
you know?
guardrail at the racetrack
Are
last
they
night.
comfortable?
and
They say they're comfortable. I don't know.
Yeah,
they're comfortable till they're not.
they're easy to put on and off.
Oh,
They
yeah.
slip them right on. They're kind of like Skechers for
Yeah.
the beach, I guess.
I've just never understood that. Why you skimp on something that could make sure that if you catch on fire, you got your fingers or you got your toes or you got you can get out of the car and
when it comes to your
Go
helmet,
home.
right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to your helmet, obviously it's your head that goes in your helmet, so it's not mine. It's not anybody here
Yeah.
that's talking. So just make sure you got the right stuff. Make sure you have an SA rated helmet. The difference between SA and M, we're not racing motorcycles. M stands for motorcycle. The motorcycle helmet's not fire retardant. Some people don't know that. I think people know that by now. SA is a special application rating that goes in the helmets that we require. So it also gets into the frontal impact testing versus the side impact testing of the helmet itself. So an SA rated helmet is going to cost you a little bit more because it's designed to do a little bit different thing and used in a different application than a motorcycle helmet.
yeah.
So watch your SA ratings. Make sure your helmet is rated and up to date on the rating. Make sure you check that. That'll get you disqualified if it's not. an M helmet rating will definitely get you disqualified. So we had that happen. You just hate to see stuff like that happen when a guy's got a perfectly legal race car,
And
but he
gets
gets
DQ'd for a
disqualified. So
helmet.
try to avoid that. Check your safety equipment before you race this year. It's in your best interest to do so. That's enough about that. So
One other piece of safety equipment almost. Unfortunately, this can be a dangerous industry. And, I just want to tell the drivers, get your license, okay? It isn't like it's a money grab for IMCA. It's to get you an extra $100,000 worth of insurance.
yeah, membership does have its benefits.
Yes.
It obviously does have its benefits. Our insurance program is as good as anybody else's. It
And
works in
we do it
conjunction
for
with
the
the
drivers.
racetracks. We require the racetracks to have insurance. It's all connected. But the one thing that unconnects or disconnects the racer from an accident is a license. If they don't have an IMCA license, even though they're racing in a sanctioned event, when accidents like that happen, and let's just say you take a helicopter ride or something weird like that, something really severe, the expenses are going to get pretty. They're going to pile up pretty quick. So, it's a secondary policy, but the license drives that. So, make sure you have that because that's the first thing that we're asked if we get an accident report that involves an IMCA racer at an IMCA sanctioned event that would qualify our insurance. Is he a member or her a member? And if they're not, you're not. We can't go back and say, oh yeah, they were, or they are, or they're going to be. They're going to buy it yesterday or tomorrow.
They thought about it.
They thought about getting it. Now they need it. So get that stuff bought. It's in your best interest. It's not
Absolutely.
not just a situation where the membership has no benefits. Plus, you get your claim card in the mail in case you ever want to claim an
Claim
engine.
card.
Shocks.
Claim some shocks.
or carbonator.
Carburetor.
Claim a carburetor. Of your best friend that finished ahead of you. So, what else, Jim?
Well, we got some, like I was saying, we got some stuff coming up. I mean, it kind of busts open this weekend. And what we're doing this on a Thursday. And coming up here in a day or two, we got Hayes, the Sunflower Classic, once again on IMCA TV. We got Clay County Fair Speedway up in Spencer on IMCA TV. Batesville down in Arkansas on IMCA TV. Bloomfield on IMCA TV. Those are traditional can't miss shows. I mean, the car count's gonna, I'm sure the car count will be good at these places, and they're just traditional good kickoff to the season races coming up here in a day or two. So if you're in the area, if you're a fan, get there. If you got a car, race there.
I think we've got 30 races yet before the end of the month, which is like 4 days away. So there's a lot of IMC racing kicking off
Like
this
going
weekend.
off this weekend. Yeah. And then the Frostbusters next week, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Second,
We got
or third,
First,
fourth,
yeah.
fifth, and sixth.
sprint cars in Merced coming up this weekend too. The California Race Saver Sprint Series will be kicking off, and I think that's got put together over this off season, and once again, I think it's something that's needed out there. She's done a great job, and I think it's going to work out good for her, and she's put a lot of work into it. What is it, Alice? What is it?
Alicia
Alicia
Garges.
Garges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And never can pronounce that first name, but she's poured her heart into it. We talked in Reno and even I think she was in Warpa maybe, and I think it's gonna be a good deal, and they kick off at Merced this weekend.
The South Texas IMC Modified Series starts this weekend too, doesn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Hot in Waco on Friday and I-37 on Saturday. So
And Kevin
we're
Rogers is running that, right?
Yeah,
I
border to
thought.
border, coast to coast this weekend.
I talked to Kevin a couple times in the off season. He texts me every now and then, contrary to what people may or may not think. Kevin and I do just talk. Kevin's going to run an IMCA sanction, the South Texas Stims,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
is what they call it.
Stims.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's gonna be the race director for that series this year, which is last year. It's one of those things that kind of surprises you. It had really good car counts.
Jacob Horch last year, I think he got that off the ground. Did a great job
getting it off the ground.
Yeah. So again, that's been a good direction for us in that South Texas area, which is historically really hadn't sanctioned or supported a lot of weekly modified sanctioning down there as long as we've been around. I mean, we've had a few, but you get to around Heart of Texas and maybe Cotton Bowl, and the sanctions kind of stopped from a mod standpoint. So it's good to see Kevin step up and run that series for us. We appreciate that.
And I was texting back and forth with him yesterday, and he said the weather's looking okay for the weekend. So hopefully they'll get some cars. And, like I said, he's put a lot of work in that. Jacob got it off the ground, and I think Kevin's going to take it and raise it up another level. So it's an exciting time for IMCA down in South Texas.
What else?
Frostbusters.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, didn't we?
Independence.
Are you running Marshalltown this year, Jerry?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Inquiring
let me
minds
write
wanna
that
know.
down.
You heard it here first.
Haven't been told different.
Breaking
Yeah.
news.
Jerry,
You haven't
Jerry,
been
I've got
told
some
different.
news. Jerry, I've got some
That's
news.
the response we get.
I talked with a guy, and
Nobody told me I wasn't.
No.
that's exactly what I was told. Did I tell you you're not? Nope. Okay, you are. Okay, thank you.
So if it's not in the rule book, does that make it legal?
Right. That's what I mean.
Gray area there.
Types. But the weather's been good
I'll
around
be the
here.
bookkeeper this year.
You're gonna do
Are you practicing this weekend?
Friday,
Yeah.
yeah, practice.
So
It's
if
gonna be
this is
80
airing,
degrees on Friday.
if this is airing on Friday, yes, we are practicing
Practicing,
tonight.
which would be today.
Today.
If it airs tomorrow.
If it airs tomorrow,
It's gonna be
it's
80
probably not
degrees.
going to air on the day we're doing it, Thursday.
I was in Boone Tuesday. I blasted over to Boone with my mother, who's in town for a few weeks for some birthday parties and stuff like that. And we blasted over to Boone, and they were talking about practicing in Boone, which I thought was a shocker. It just doesn't seem
Whose
right.
idea was that?
Rod wanted
Yeah,
to get
Rod
some,
wants one because we were
Rod
talking.
wanted to
He
get
was
some cars on the
yeah,
track.
That makes sense.
He come over and bladed. He's gonna come over to Thursday or today and blade
Yep.
at Marshalltown, and he was like, "I want to practice. I don't know why we can't have a practice. I want to practice."
The weather just isn't right.
the weather, yeah.
It's supposed to rain Saturday. At
That's
least
why
temperatures are supposed to
yeah,
drop
it's
my
Saturday
practice
here.
was moved for
then it
Saturday.
gets cold on Sunday.
Like 45 is the high on Sunday here.
Yeah.
But for the Frostbusters, it's in the mid to high 60s.
Yeah, it's going to go back up.
It's
again.
supposed to be a great weekend
Right.
for the Frostbusters.
It kind of goes like
next weekend.
like this and then back up.
Yeah.
a little bit
It's
all the
done.
time.
Sort of like your
80
employment at Marshalltown Speedway. You never know which way
Right.
it's going to go.
Yeah, it's like a motocross track, dick.
Yeah. So, no, that'll be good. Independence.
Jerry's employment anywhere. Just limit it to Marshalltown.
Yeah.
I haven't been fired from anything lately.
I didn't know that Marshalltown sold cars.
So I don't service them
They
either.
don't service them either.
If they did, Jerry couldn't work there.
No, I could. I don't know there's this place I can't go work at.
Might not be a lot on the property.
No, I've never been told don't ever come back.
So Independence, what, kicks off the Frostbuster next Thursday?
Thursday night.
Yep.
I imagine you'll
Friday,
see some
Saturday,
IMCA
Sunday.
staff members there.
Friday, Marshalltown, and
Marshalltown.
Boone and Stewart.
Yep.
We
Right?
took Kirk's van from him. Kirk's van usually sits at his house. We've been borrowing Kirk's van with the IMCA TV guys and driving that thing around the country.
Hey, the AC needs worked on in it because the driver's side
Don't tell Kirk.
doesn't work cold. Okay. And the passenger side blows hot the whole time. It was
Well,
like,
that's all right. Kirk sits in it's his van. He sits in the driver's side
That's
anyway.
right.
So
I
it's-
sat in the passenger
Jerry's a
side
prima
to and from
donna.
Florida,
who
and it was
cares
a
about the
sauna.
passenger side?
You said only hot air comes out of the passenger side, and that's where you say you sit, Jerry. I'm looking for
From the vents,
I'm
from
looking
the
for a
vents.
correlation here, and I just can't put my finger on it.
How odd. What are the odds?
That's right. You rode with me. I better be nice to you. So.
So Kirk wants his van back.
Does
so he
he?
can go to work next week. So you imagine so if you're gonna race the Frostbusters, make sure you
Say hi to Kirk.
say hi to Kirk. I might
Also-
be in attendance. I'm planning on going. So
Also, we got the Igloo 25 at Shelby County Speedway in Harlan.
Are they giving my coolers?
Yeah,
When is that,
that
Jim?
would be the
I think it's
Yeti.
next weekend, isn't it? Same time as the
Yeah,
Boone
April
Frostbusters.
5th.
Yeah.
They
Brett
got
gave away some
$1,000 to win for the late models, $1,000 for the Race Savers, and they got Stock Car Sport Mods Hobbies, and
there it is.
Mini Mods.
Doug Voss does a
really
good
care
job
about.
at Harlan.
Yeah,
He does a really good
they
job.
really have. They shorten that track up, and it's a fun place to watch a race. And
Yeah.
He came to our
like you
banquet
said,
last year.
yep.
But I just think Doug does a really good job over there.
Yeah, they're doing a great job with that place. I mean,
We-
it just
I think we mentioned it. Did we mention it in the last podcast about our regional ARPIes that we had with Brad and Jesse at 34?
I don't-
and then
Yeah,
Or-
you mentioned
yeah, we
it.
did.
Yeah.
Did we?
Doug,
Mentioned it,
did we
yeah.
mention that?
Yep.
Doug up
Yep.
at Huset's. But there's
Houston,
just so many good
Jackson.
promoters that have been around for a long time, and Doug's kind of one of those ones that I'm sure everybody in Western Iowa knows who Doug is, but Doug is just kind of one of those guys.
doesn't he
that I
live
think
like
that-
up in Sac City or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, he lives
Yeah,
like
he lives like, I mean, he's an hour
from
and
Harlan.
He's
15
not
or
there,
20
yeah.
minutes to Harlan.
Yeah.
just taking a facility that was really, and I wouldn't say on life support, but just struggling to find its identity for a few years there, and then
In intensive care.
right,
Yeah.
and then boom, they've made a lot of really good moves over there.
I knew it was over there somewhere, Lytton.
There's just lots of good racetracks out there. There really is lots of good dirt racetracks out there. It's pretty cool for IMCA to be associated with the quality of the facilities that we get to deal with, and the promoters with the experience that they have. I think racers should appreciate the promoter more a little bit under some of the circumstances that they go through.
You were
But-
talking earlier about the Facebook and social media and stuff and how people like to
Right.
troll and that. 34 Raceway, if you go to their Facebook page, they put a great post out there the other day about what promoters go through when it comes to rainouts and scheduling and the work and the cost of just getting ready to go racing when the weather may force you to cancel. And they just put a really good post that had a good reaction to it. So if you can, I'd go to the 34 Raceway's Facebook page and read
You share that
Jesse's
on our
post
promoters
there.
page?
I
Yeah,
have not.
we need to
You
share
should
that.
share that
Yeah.
on our promoters page. We have a private promoters page. We have lots of private Facebook pages in case anybody wants to know.
That's where we talk about everybody
It's,
at.
that's where the
That's right.
serious discussions
Yeah.
take place.
I mean, it's 8 to 10 grand on a rain out minimum.
Yeah.
Because you've had to prep especially if you get, your rain out after hot laps. You've cooked food that now is going to go to waste. You got to pay your help because, they're there. I mean, there's so many things that a rain out can cost you, even though it didn't cost the racer other than,
Yeah, that's one of those interesting numbers where I don't know if racers necessarily think about that at times, but what does it cost to open a facility? What is the average cost to open a facility across the United States? And I think it would shock some people. The number I used to be like, you hear people say like, oh, I can get my place open for $3 or $4 grand. Like if you want to have a practice session.
Yeah.
If you want to rent the track, that's one of the things people say, oh, rent the track. It's just to throw a little water on. It's good to go. It's in some aspects that may be the case, but it's still expensive to do that because you got diesel fuel and prepping the track if you're going to actually rent a racetrack that's been prepped like it's going to be raced
Yeah.
on. But I think it's 10 grand. I think 10 grand's probably a pretty good number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Unless you're Wayne Becker, then that number goes to 100 grand because every time before he opens, he's got to reshape it
Right.
Yeah.
and use GPS in the grader and
Right.
put all new drainage in it. So it's probably about 100 for Wayne to open up for a race, each race.
Yeah, so regardless of how many times the racetrack is racing, regardless of how many events they have, what size it is, I think obviously bigger racetracks the expenses could even be more because it's a bigger distance to
Yeah.
cover, more water.
Yeah.
It's just
you're buying
it's just
city, if
simple
you're buying,
stuff.
if your water comes from the city, you don't get that for
Right.
free.
More diesel to go around a half-mile racetrack than
more
it is to
wear
go
and
around
tear
a
on
quarter-mile
equipment.
racetrack. Just more wear and tear. It's just more ground to prep.
Yeah.
So,
Once
but
again, I don't think people understand what it takes to keep a facility. I mean, I called Roger Hayden yesterday, and I could barely hear him. I go, "Where are you at?" "Oh, I'm up on a ladder truck or a bucket truck on top of my light pole, replacing the lights that got damaged in the winter." I mean, just what the winter does to tracks. Having to turn, the water back on, so it, because you had to turn it off so it doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
All that stuff that goes into it, and the time and the money, I just people don't realize.
Well, yeah, it's like
I-
Beatrice, talking to Tommy the other day.
Yeah.
They were going out Monday to turn the water back off because they don't race for a month and they're talking cold temps and they don't want to freeze it up. So, I mean, not only did you have to
Crazy.
unwinterize it, but now you winterize it again when you're done, and that doesn't come free.
Yep.
You know, we talk about tracks with good promoters. In Indiana, you know, they've had a Race Saver series there. This year it's going to be renamed the Huntley Wing Sprint Car Series. Kevin Huntley, you know, won hundreds and hundreds of sprint car races, and he was really a big force behind getting the Race Saver going in Indiana. And they open up here like the 11th at Lincoln Park with their new promoter, Tommy Estes, will be promoting Lincoln Park this year. And
Tommy's out
Going
there
through a
now.
time warp when you say that.
Right.
I've never been there, but I've just always heard great things about Lincoln Park, and you know, with Tommy there, it can only get better. And I think this year that series is going to have a huge year. They've got very good leadership there with the series now, and there's just a lot of buzz in that area with the Race Saver guys around that series. So it'll be fun. I'm going to have to try to get out there at least for a couple races this year. They have every year they have the Kevin Huntley Memorial at Bloomington, which is I think last year they might have paid $8,000 to win, if I remember right. And it's a great event for a great guy. Kevin really worked hard to get the Race Savers going out there.
Yep. What else? Anything else, guys? Hey, we know what we
Ben?
didn't do?
What?
We didn't give Ben a title. We were going to
Oh,
give
yeah, gonna give-
we were going to give Ben a title during the podcast.
Maybe what
Maybe we
Open
should
it
let the
up to our-
Facebookers.
Polls are
What do you
open.
think, Jared Bear? You have a good relationship with
Yeah,
Ben. You should probably-
Apparently.
Little Cub Ben.
We got to give Ben a title. Maybe we'll have that decided by the next podcast.
I think we go to the masses and let the masses.
we would
decide what his
definitely
title
take
is.
suggestions if they want to post it on our Facebook. page.
Comment below. Comment below.
below on the
What should
podcast.
Ben Deatherage's title be?
And what should Jerry's title be?
That's a whole
Give
different.
him a
story.
title.
We're just
Jer
going to
Bear?
leave him as Jer Bear.
I noticed my nameplate on my door was sitting on my desk when I came in today. Did that
you
fall
know,
off, or did someone take it off?
I just take it. You work from home, so I mean, is it
you're
really
not
your
really
office?
Is this
anymore?
my last? Is this my last podcast?
Yeah. No, it's not. You'll be here again. You just lost your office.
So we'll have to come up with a
Ben-
title for Ben. Again,
Ben,
we
what
will.
would you like to be called? We'll let you kick it off. Give us your dream title.
Let's start.
Oh,
What does
gosh.
Jerry call you?
Ben.
Hey, you.
What does Jared Bear call you?
Hey with an E. I don't know. Gosh, way to put me on the spot.
We'll think of something.
There you go.
Something official, hopefully.
Come up with an official title. Could be like he could be like a liaison. Yeah, we could come up with like a liaison title.
I'm sure we can come up with. We're going to come up with something that
Yeah.
fits, because Ben does a lot of stuff. Still very active at IMCA TV too.
Yes.
So
I do not believe we're going to title him the Nacho Man, though. I don't think the Nacho Man.
Nacho Man.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know who
remember
that
his
guy
remember
is.
his costumes, his alter egos at the Winter Nationals, and he came out of the can as the Nacho Man.
Oh, man.
What happened to Ben? Oh, he came out of the can. It's Nacho Man.
Nacho Man.
Yeah, Critter Lovegood, Critter D with the big D in the middle. Lovegood. I don't know that guy.
You were dressed up as Joe Dirt once, I thought, or at least that's what I
No, I
thought.
think
Yeah,
that was
that's-
the Nacho Man.
Is that Nacho
That
Man?
was
Or was that
Lovegood.
is that Critter with the big D in the middle or whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Those are titles we probably won't be using. So,
yeah.
Joe Dirt.
They're already claimed.
Nacho Man. I kind of like that.
Nacho Man.
Nacho Man.
I think we leave it to producer Nate to title him.
Yeah. What
There
kind
we
of
go.
What kind of cheese is that? Nacho cheese.
Nacho
Yes.
cheese.
Get some nacho
Well-
cheese when you go to the concession stand at the racetrack this weekend.
I do have some cookies for you guys.
Aw. What about Jim and Ben? Do they get a cookie?
I can save them one. I can mail
Can you
it, but it might
virtually?
not.
Can you virtually let
There you
them?
Again, Kennedy turned 14 on Saturday. My mother was back. She's back in town. She's on the property, as a matter of fact. Too bad she didn't want to do podcasts.
Oh, she'd be such a great guest.
Oh,
She
the
just kinda
stories
says-
she could tell about you that we would love. That would be the ultimate podcast right there.
She says, I'm just kind of past that point in my career, is usually what she says when I ask her to do something she didn't want to do. I'm like, I get it. I saw a post on Facebook. I think Bob Harris posted it the other day when we finished on this, about the Dale Earnhart,
Yeah, when it said
Michael Waltrip,
yeah.
and Phil
Hawkeye
Barkdahl
Downs.
race at
I
Hawkeye
remember
Downs.
that. I was there for that.
That was pretty cool. That was like a flashback in time for me because I was in college, but I came back and went to that.
I was like in June or something like a. It was
I don't-
Yeah.
early.
I don't
June,
think
if
I was
remember.
born yet.
Oh no, you were 75.
I think Jim would have been helping us. Jim, you weren't the sprint car director at that time. It came a few years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that. I went to it, and obviously I had access because my mother was involved with Keith and IMCA, and Keith, I think, put on the race. How they made that all happen. It's just it would be a cool story for her to. She'd probably know the details, and I'll just ask her.
Yeah, because Bob had built those cars for
Bob built those. Yes,
Dale and
Dale and Michael Waltrip.
Yeah.
The yellow car was actually a car
Barkdahl,
that,
which was he raced a weekly.
it was like a. I don't know if it was a Current modified, Bruce Current. I'm trying to think who built that thing, but it was an Keith bought it. Keith Connect bought it. He owned it. It sat right back out here in the shop. That's where he kept it. And Phil came back and Phil drove it at the race.
Because he raced. I mean, he raced asphalt and dirt in that car, if I remember right.
Yeah,
Didn't he?
I think Jeff drove that car at Benton County Speedway like the following year. I was old enough to race at the time. I wanted to drive that car so damn bad. I'm like, I please let me race it. Please let me race it. And they just wouldn't let me race it. But
They
Jeff-
had this vision that they knew you would destroy it if you got in it, like that
Me getting-
first sport mod.
me getting out on the front stretch and leaving the car parked and throwing my helmet or carrying my helmet back to the pits.
I hate when you beat me to it.
I had to say it because I knew Jim was going to say it. Hey, I only did that once.
I mean, you get out and throw your helmet out. Now, current promoter Corey Drips just gets there and moves tires around with his mod when he didn't like it.
Right? He'd be a good guest, too. I like to get Corey on the podcast.
All he's got to do is sit there.
I think he'd probably would participate.
I think he would.
Be a good one to have.
Yes.
Give you the racer, IMCA racer perspective, the open racer perspective. He's racing
Promoter
late models, too, a
perspective.
little bit. You know, he works for Rage, works in conjunction with
City
Rage.
council member.
He's a city council member in Rhinebeck. He was my best man at my wedding. So, I mean, there's all kinds of titles Corey has that are pretty interesting subjects. We could have all kinds of fun having him on the show.
There's some good stories with old Drips.
Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine if we got Drips and your mom on the same podcast?
I
The
probably would
thing
definitely
we
let
could
that happen.
find out about you.
That
Well, no,
probably
because you
definitely
wouldn't
would
want your
happen.
mom to. No, she probably knows the stories of the things you and Corey did back in the day.
Some of the stuff.
Like, what don't you
Most
think
of
she
the
knows
statutes
about?
of limitation have.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's past.
So anyhow, back to that race with Earnhardt. I'm telling you, that was a cool night. That was a really cool
That
event.
place was standing room
There was
only.
a lot of people there. They had an autograph session. I remember that. And I just remember the thousands of people standing in line for autographs. And when he was done signing autographs, they were on a time frame. It's like, listen, we got to stop. And so he got on the golf cart, and I was sitting on the golf cart, and he got on the front. I don't know. It might even been Mike Benson driving the golf cart. You know Mike Benson.
Oh, yeah,
Sure it
security
was.
Mike Benson. It probably
It very
was.
well could have
Sure
been.
it was.
But he was somebody was driving the golf cart, and Earnhardt got on there, and I was sitting on the back. It was a 4-seater golf cart with the seat turned the other direction, and I was sitting on the back. And I just remember people were just coming up to the golf cart, "Can I have your autograph? Can I have your autograph?" And he just turned to the guy driving the golf cart and said, "Get the hell out of here," because it was nonstop.
Yeah.
And you could tell. I mean, it was Dale Earnhardt. crying out loud.
Whose autograph were they asking?
They weren't asking for mine or.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was pretty cool. It was a cool experience. One of those things that stick in your head for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I remember saw him there, and then he was supposed to be at Marshalltown racing. I think it was Kevin Pittman's late model that was all put up in there, and they were in Pocono, I think, and the weather turned bad, and he couldn't get to Marshalltown on that Friday. They couldn't fly out.
Yeah.
But that was like, I just remember my brother posted about it. He goes, I remember standing in line. They said he's not going to be here.
Yeah.
And I just
Were you
remember
promoting Marshalltown at
Crazy.
the time?
No, I was just sitting in the stands watching.
Okay.
Crazy.
I didn't know if that was the week you were the promoter there.
No, that was way back. That was Stephen Barry Prisky days back in. That'd have been like 87 or 88. No, 87 because I think
God, you weren't even a teenager yet.
No, it's close.
Crazy.
Yeah, you're little. You would have been a teenager back then in '87. '87.
Yep. 15.
Jim was working on being a great grandfather back then.
Drew his first
Crazy.
Social Security check in '87.
Right. Yeah. I also think it's cool that Daryl Earnhardt Jr., we mentioned Earnhardt and we've mentioned Kevin Harvick, but I also think that what Earnhardt Jr. is doing with his podcast,
The Dirty Mo stuff.
and some of the stuff he's doing for again, for somebody who probably doesn't need any money in his life, he does it, I think, because he enjoys it. And to have him supporting racing and some of the stuff he's doing, I think he owns a tour down there in that southeast part of the United States. To see him supporting racing is really good for racing. You know, there's good to see professional level guys not ride off into the sunset and disappear.
And I mean, I don't think you can talk about guys like that without talking about the king of those guys, in my opinion, is Kenny Schrader. What he gives back to this sport at every single level. And there's just not a more genuine guy that I've ever come across in this industry than Kenny Schrader.
30 years ago, when I was a kid, I'd look forward to seeing Kenny Schrader, and there's still the same enthusiasm and interest in seeing him show up at your local track today.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a cool dude.
And he's just one of those guys that, everybody's like, well, what's he get paid? What? He just wants to race.
Yep.
I mean, he selects the races he goes to, and
he has a very full schedule.
yes, and it's him and Joey and whoever decides to tag
Very
along,
cool.
and they just go racing. They're
Very
just
cool.
They don't care.
I went I went one more racing store. I went to Tahoe because Virginia's best friend, they had access to a house out there. Her uncle or her husband's uncle owns a house in South Lake Tahoe. So you guys want to go skiing with us? I'm like, yeah, I'd stay for free. So we just had to buy plane tickets to get out there, which was fun. So instead of doing something warm for our vacation for spring break with our daughter, we went snow skiing, which with my wife is like, that's unheard of. But we did, and we had a blast. But long story short, I go to the casino. The South Lake Tahoe has.
You went to a casino?
Yeah, imagine that. There was a casino there, right? So I walk into the casino. I'm standing at the roulette wheel. I turn around, and the guy standing beside me is Greg Biffle. And I'm just like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
With Biffle, and his whole, like, ripping his sleeves off stuff. Again, you guys watch all this on Facebook? Probably not. This is stuff that I thought was interesting. Because I think the Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell story
that thing is,
from Daytona was really cool, and Biffle was behind a lot of that. I thought that was really cool. But that's what kind of drew me into kind of like paying attention to a little bit of that stuff. But yeah, I turned to the roulette wheel in Reno, and Greg Biffle standing beside me, and I'm just like,
Isn't that your neighbor, Ben?
what the hell are the odds of this?
Yeah. Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah.
I think
Crazy.
Cletus
He's a nice guy.
McFarland deal,
He was
that-
very nice to
Him,
me.
him and Jerry Schramm.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they did some promotion stuff up here at Sunset, Willamette,
Yep.
and even up at Grays Harbor, too.
Yep.
Another guy that's kind of active in the sports publicly and maybe even not publicly, which is kind of cool to be at the level he was and to help that. I still think that whole Garrett Mitchell, Cletus McFarland story is pretty interesting. I'm actually excited to watch Talladega this year because he says he's going to race it.
Well, that was I was talking with some people yesterday.
It's
and,
wild.
And the Cletus McFarland deal got brought up. He just went out and was buddies with that 1320 media or whatever.
saw that.
And
He was on Dirty Mo and told the story, which I thought was really interesting.
he just like shoots this deal and he becomes this Cletus McFarland, and that one clip of 30 seconds goes stupid viral, and now now everybody knows who the guy
He's
is.
got like 4 million followers on his YouTube page or something
yeah.
like that. That's almost as many as Kim Kardashian
I'd be more.
or more.
Just a few less than.
But it's
we have just a
interesting.
few less here on our podcast.
Yeah, and he's and Cletus or Garrett is originally from Omaha, which I always think is
Yeah.
interesting.
That's where the 1320 video guys are from.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, Jim, you know who Cletus McFarland is? He's like, no.
I don't know who this Garrett kid is. He made me a sandwich at the shop the other day.
Right. But anyhow, anybody have anything else? We've been on
Ben?
long enough. It's good catching up.
Oh,
90
my
minutes of
Yes,
catch up.
I said the EP was going to be the extended play because it'd been a while since. we've been
Hopefully,
here.
We need to do this more often. When should we do it again? Let's come up with a date so our viewers can look forward to it.
Frostbusters
Mark
are
your
next
calendar.
week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know.
I don't know.
Wednesday. We can try.
Next
be here.
Wednesday?
Next Wednesday? That might work.
I'll be here.
That could work. It's supposed to rain on Wednesday, I think. That'd
And
be
if
nice
you
for
can't
the
come,
frost.
Jerry, what's
Or
do
do you-
without you? No Jer Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Or do you want to do it a week from Wednesday? Get the Frostbusters in the book so we have something to talk about.
Oh, yeah, the
well,
docu-series. Said, let's talk about that.
This is how these podcasts last so damn long. We talk about all kinds of shit, and I
The
talk
new
too much.
the new Dirt Collective IMCA TV
The Boone
Dinger
documentary.
put together.
Boone
season 2.
documentary is going to release next Wednesday. Is that what you said? Planning on releasing the first episode or all of
A
them?
week
Just
from
one,
Wednesday.
right? All episodes of the Boone documentary from last year will be released to subscribers
of the replay pass.
on the replay pass.
Yep.
On
Another
Wednesday.
reason why you lose if you don't subscribe.
Snooze, you
On Wednesday,
lose.
they're pretty cool. I obviously get to watch them all before they get released. They're pretty cool.
Just remember, Jim, the more you lollygag, the longer it takes.
They do a really. Jeremy Cross does a really good job. He did the documentary the year before. He does a good job.
I remember it. I remember Chris Economaki saying that.
So 6 episodes next week. The Boone documentary going to be released on the replay to subscribers only.
The 9th.
A week from
April 9th.
A week from Wednesday.
Oh, that's after. Sorry,
Yeah, so it's after the Frostbusters.
after the Frostbusters.
We could have a premiere podcast,
We could.
or maybe we could even tease with a couple clips.
We could do it on Tuesday. It'd
Behind
be
the
like the
scenes.
prelude to the
All right.
release of the.
So we'll figure out how soon we're going to do our next podcast when we're done with this one.
Yes.
How's that
And we'll also figure out a title for Ben.
Title for Ben. Jerry's title
There we
is
That's
go.
up to the viewers.
It's up to the viewers.
Be
My
gentle
new
to
title
me.
is Jer Bear.
Right.
That's okay.
All right, wrap it up, Jerry.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Episode 2 here. Remember, a lot of great IMCA racing coming up. If you cannot make it in person, make sure and check us out on IMCA TV. The schedules are there. And if you missed something and you want to go back and watch it, get that replay subscription at IMCA TV. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.